I'm Joy Bowman, the chair of the history department, and I wanted to say welcome to graduates and their families and to faculty. So we have rolled our end of the year celebration into our graduate awards ceremony. And so we're looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning as well, but also want to honor our graduate students who have done an amazing job. And I know many of you are still grading papers. Marwa, my TA, and I actually, believe it or not, had an exam scheduled this morning for 8 a.m., which seems like cruel and unusual punishment, but we came up with an alternate plan, so that was good. So I'm going to turn it over to Marla Miller, and just want to say thank you so much to Mary Lashway for all of her work, and I think we all agree that none of us would be here without her. Also to Amy and Julie and Suzanne, who make our lives a little bit more manageable than they probably would be without them, and so we can't say enough. So I'll turn it over to him, and I will come back a little bit later. Very good. Okay.
Couple of seats up front. You guys are standing. You're all good? Seats up front. Thank you, Joy, for that welcome. And I wanted to add my thanks too. This is my last year as graduate program director, and so this is the last time I'll get to do this. And it's always a pleasure to thank the staff, but I want to say too that working with Amy and Suzanne and Julie make every day easy as pie on the 6th floor. Jessica Johnson, who can't be here tonight because she's off working, also has done so much. I know you guys, the graduate program, can see how much she values our students and is always trying to find work for you guys mainly, which is lovely. And I just want to thank Mary Lashway, and I can't say too much about this because I'll start to cry, so I'm not going to say that much. But yes, Mary, anybody who's been here very long knows what a transformation Mary has brought in the graduate program. And every day, Mary, working with you is so much fun. And I thank you for your support and your companionship and your good judgment and good cheer. And, I'm going to miss working next to you. So thank you. So let me say one thing. If you're getting an award tonight, or if your name is mentioned, don't leave after the ceremony because we want to do some photographs of groups and stuff. So don't fly right out. We're going to take some during the ceremony, but stay after. We're going to do that too. Also, if you're getting an award tonight or graduating, you're going to receive one of these stylish t-shirts. Don't leave without one.
I work out in mine.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Very good. And also, everyone is going to get a very beautiful portfolio from the history department to take with you in your studies going forward. So you'll pick these up after the ceremony. And don't forget to do that. So I think that's all I have for general announcements. So we can plunge right in. So brace yourselves. As you guys know, if you're on the program tonight, I'm going to ask you to come up here and say a word or two about what you're up to. And it's just a really lovely way for us all to find out what our students are doing out in the world. So at the top of the program, we're going to start out with a couple of awards that are given by entities outside the history department, and then we'll move into the history awards. So for the first person we want to acknowledge tonight is Dan Chard, who won the DuBois Library Fellowship. Dan, why don't you come on up? These are fellowships to do research in special collections in the library. So Dan, why don't you tell us what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I actually received this last spring, but I did the residency this last spring. I got an honorary DuBois Fellowship and is doing archival research in the Ray Levasseur papers and the Christina Ryan papers in the collection in special collections, and it's on my dissertation, which is about the FBI's war with domestic leftist guerrillas during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and formation of police institutions devoted to its counterterrorism operations. And so there's materials in there that I was thinking of. So
great. You'll be seeing Dan again in the program. So congratulations, Dan. We are also lucky that the graduate school has travel grants that allow our students to go and present their scholarship at conferences. And there are 4 students who have gotten those travel grants this year. So let me call to the front Julie DeChantal. Julie might not be here yet.
Julie has just walked in the building.
Isn't that funny? Tell her to walk quicker. You guys walk really slowly up, and we'll let Julie catch up. Julie DeChantal, Erica Fagan, Jacob Orcutt, and Shuko Tamao. Whenever Julie gets here, we'll have her come up. Don't worry about it. So I think all of you have already done your travel with these travel grants. Is that right? So why don't you come on up and tell people where you went and what you talked about?
Oh,
Erica?
Okay. So with this generous grant from the graduate school, I attended the National Council for Public History meeting in Monterey, California in March, where I conducted a workshop with Marla, which was a lot of fun. And I'll be doing it again with Marla actually next month. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And the topic of it was?
The topic of it was Wikipedia 101, writing women's history, and other represented subjects. So that's great. Thanks.
And the grant also allowed me to go to the MTPH in Monterey. I presented a paper on Indigenous peoples in public history. It was a really great panel, and it was focused actually on my internship work that was also funded through the department through the Hyde scholarship. So it was great to have that support from the department.
That's what we call timing. So I got the travel grant from the grad school. It's going to allow me to actually go to Toronto to the Berkshire conference, which we had 3 years ago at UMass in 2011. I'm going to present a poster on my dissertation research, which is about African American women in Boston and how their migration in the 20s actually influences their trajectory to the desegregation movement in the 60s and 70s.
Very good.
So my grandmother, I didn't know I have to speak. I didn't know what to do. So I spoke for a conference in alternative health conference in Bloomington, Indiana. I talked about my thesis project about how the psychiatric survivors movement framed themselves as a larger civil rights movement during the 70s. And it was good to mix with other students from the disciplines such as English department and gender studies and queer studies, and it was very fun to meet with other scholars and students. Everyone.
All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. We also have a series of travel grants that are funded by the very generous alumni of the history department. I have to say, our community of alumni are some of the most generous on the UMass campus, and we're very grateful for that. So there are other travel grants funded by that source, and the recipients of that this year are Dan Chard, Felicia Jameson, and Amanda Tweeds. Come on up. So let's see, Dan, we'll start with you.
Thanks. So I mentioned what my dissertation's about, but thank you for the grant, and I'm going to be using it to the whole graduate studies committee. I'm going to be using it to travel to College Park, Maryland, National Archives, and reviewing some declassified FBI documents about government surveillance of leftist groups in the 60s and 70s.
Hold on, now we have actual certificates, and I get to do the group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very good. Mana?
Thank you for the grant. I actually be traveling to Tulane University in New Orleans at the Amistad Center, and I'll be looking at the American Missionary Association records. And my dissertation topic will focus on the transition of African Americans in Liberty County from slavery to emancipation.
Very good.
So thanks to this generous grant, I get to spend some weeks in my summer going to the desert in California. The good news is I actually have something there I'm studying. I'm looking at Calico Ghost Town, which was owned by Walter Knott, who also owns a theme park in Southern California. So he revamped this ghost town with a very theme park spin on it. So it's going to be a very interesting part of my dissertation, looking at Old West tourism in California.
And the next award is going to be presented by Joel Wolf.
And I had some water. So the lesson is to drink more. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege because this was started by Joy and continued by Marla, and no one got to thank them. So first I want to thank Joy for always organizing such lovely events like this. I think we should all thank her. And of course Marla, who is stepping down after 4 years, and not only does she get the break of not that, but she gets the extraordinary honor of the Conti Fellowship from the university. I think we all So Marla asked me to present the Robert and Jeanne Potash Award to Bob's not here.
No, thank you.
So those of you who don't know the Potashes, Bob Potash is really an extraordinary individual and a real pioneer in Latin American history. And there's a whole generation of primarily men, I mean Jane Rausch was one of the few women in that era, who founded the field. And what's so unique about Bob's work is that it's still written. It's not just that he was the first person to write about the Argentine military in such a profound and intellectually important way, but that we still consider his books the important books, not just foundationally, but they continue to be great. And so it's a real honor for me and for the recipient of this award to be associated with Bob Potash. And I love the fact that I get to give this award to Tammy, because Tammy started at UMass and I had her as a very bright Commonwealth Honors College student, take several classes with me. I had no idea who she was in History 121, but in Brazilian history I got to know her. And then she TA'd in 121, and she's now writing a terrific master's thesis, and you know that because she's going to get 2 classes today. So, Tammy, I'll leave it.
So I don't know how Dr. Potash would feel about me going to Brazil or Argentina. Probably doesn't feel too strongly about it after we'll see how that plays out. I'm sure Brazil will be Argentina, but I will be going to Brazil for my research for my thesis, and I'm very excited. Thank you so much for this award. I am excited to see my family, and obviously to spend some time in the archives there. Thank you.
Congratulations. Next we have the Frederic Gilbert Bauer Research Fellowship, which is one of the ways we support the doctoral dissertation research of our students. There are 2 students winning that prize tonight. One is Tammy. Tammy, did you actually say what you're going to do? And just stand up and tell us what you're going to do in the archive.
Okay. So I have a couple of projects going on, but I will be looking at migration in Brazil. My family migrated. I am an immigrant, so I'm very fascinated by migration. And then I'm also going to sort of be looking at the dictatorship at large and the end of the dictatorship and body policing during the military dictatorship.
Very good, thank you. And then the second recipient is Catherine Julian, who's off on a Fulbright right now, which is lovely for her. And her advisor, John Olson, is going to say a word or 2 about her work that will be supported by the Bauer Fellowship.
Right, so she's making great progress on her research while she's on this Fulbright. But it keeps her mainly in Berlin, and so she is going to use this travel grant to get her outside of Berlin and go to the city of Erfurt and to the city of Leipzig, and she's doing some oral histories with nuns. Her dissertation is it's about sacred spaces in Communist East Germany, and one of the areas she's tended to focus on now, as she's delved into the archives and what's there and what's not, is no one's written about the nuns. And especially in the healthcare field. The best hospitals in East Germany were run by the orders, and so she's looking at the life of the orders, sacred spaces, and the hospitals, and the relationship to the state functionaries who loved to keep them alive and going because they got great healthcare from them. So that's where she goes to.
Very good. Next, I'd like to invite Brian Ogilvie and Jennifer Hoyer to the stage to present the Marvin Ogilvie Memorial Award for Foreign Language Study. And I've asked Brian just to say a word or 2 about the origins of this fellowship.
Well, very briefly, my father had a not terribly good relationship with foreign languages. He crammed French and German for his Ph.D. qualifying language exam in biochemistry and promptly forgot them. But during his life, he was very generous in supporting Jennifer's and my research in foreign language and our foreign language studies. Those are areas that we feel very deeply about, given the state of foreign language education in the United States. And so we thought it would be a great way to honor his memory to support the work of one of our graduate students who either needs to read a foreign language and needs training for that, or who needs to work with foreign language sources. So that's what I do.
Very good. I'll let you present it. This year's awardee is Erica Fagan. Tell us where you're going to go.
All right, so first, thank you very much, Brian and Jennifer. Also, I'll be headed to Berlin for 2 months to improve my German writing skills. Thank you very much.
And the next award is going to be presented by our own Sam Redmond. Let's call up front Emily Hunter, Emily Pipes, Rebecca Schmidt, and Charles Weisenberger.
All right, so welcome. It's great to see some familiar faces and some new faces here. This has been Sam Redmond, a new faculty member here teaching public history. It's been really great experience to be here this first year. And one of, I think, the really surprising aspects for me has been, so my assigned sort of teaching load this year was entirely undergraduate teaching. I love working with undergraduates. I didn't really think very much about my relationship with graduate students the first year that I would be here. And to be honest with you, that's been one of the true highlights so far this year, has been the great relationships that I formed with some graduate students here and learned about the really tremendous work that you guys are doing. Just a brief word on why this is such a great program, the Hyde internship program. It was founded by an alum, a 1966 alum of our program, who went on to focus on historic preservation. He became a professor at Wayne State University. He focuses his scholarship on the automobile, but is really interested in historic preservation and fell back in love and connected with the public history program when we had our 25th anniversary. Working in the field, working in an internship program was one of the really pivotal turning points for me as a young person, as a scholar, in thinking about some of these issues. So it's really great, an aspect of our program that we'll be able to offer you guys an opportunity to have, because paid internships are better than not paid internships, to offer a little bit of funding to have you guys go do a really interesting experience. So what I'd like to do is commend all of you guys and offer you a certificate, but then invite you up here to say a word or two about what you'll be doing with, I believe all of you will be using the experience this summer, is that right? To do something cool and interesting, so maybe share a word or two about that. But congratulations. All right, so first, Emily Hunter. Great. Let's see. I believe these are in order.
So thank you very much. I'm really appreciative of this funding, and actually this semester I'm going to be doing an internship in archives here on campus, working with Rob Cox, and I'm going to be examining the Diana and Mara Henry collection. And Diana Henry was a photographer during the 1960s and 70s who chronicled a number of interesting social movements, particularly the women's movement. So I'm going to be working with her photographs and doing some written commentary on them and working on digitizing. So I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to be interning this summer at the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination. I'll be working in the housing and testing units. I'm really excited, just took Dr. Libby Sharrow's course on history of social policy, so I'm excited to kind of implement the things I've learned about discrimination policy this summer. And like Dr. Redmond said, paid internships are better than unpaid ones. Thank you.
Great.
begun my internship at the UMass Press working with acquisitions editor Clark Dugan. I've done some copy editing and some proofreading of manuscripts. I've also gotten to observe the peer review process of how a manuscript becomes a monograph.
Great.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to use this scholarship to do an internship at the Maryland Historical Trust, which is Maryland State Historic Preservation Office. I'm going to be working with their easement program. They have one of the largest historic easement programs in the country. Working with that and kind of updating their databases and looking at what the condition of their properties and things like that, which will help me immensely as I hope to end up in preservation one day. Thank you.
The next award is the Joyce Berkman Endowed Fund in Women's History and Women's Studies, and we're lucky to have Joyce with us tonight too, and she's going to come up and say a word or two about the award. And then we might as well let's bring up Marwa and Felicia, the recipients this year.
It's really thrilling to be here. It does feel like springtime when I hear everybody's projects and their plans for the future and a sense of sowing of seeds and they're going to blossom. And this actually does have a connection with the grant the award. I set it up as a way of making sure that I could perpetuate after 48 years of teaching here generations upon generations of researchers and professors who will continue to foster the growth of analysis of women, especially women through the lens of gender, race, class, ethnicity, and the other crucial categories of the underserved populations of women in our country and in the world. This is not a strictly U.S. award. It's for, as it happens, it's U.S. awardees this year, but it need not be in my vision of this endowed fund. I want to say one more word about this. I don't know Felicia well, but I do know Marwa very well. She was my graduate student, an advisee, and I think I was a little bit responsible for your even coming here in the first place. And so it's with utter delight that I see this first year the award being given to Marwa, and I know that things have gone very well with you two, Felicia. You're both going to Tulane to do research, and I wish you both the very, very best what you're doing.
Very good question.
Marwa, there you go. Thank you, Joyce. You're welcome. And Felicia.
So I will be going to New Orleans, to Tulane University, also to the Amistad Center as well. And I will be looking at, these are papers of sociologists who, during the Montgomery bus boycott, sort of embedded themselves in the black and white community. I don't think they could do this today because it broke all sorts of IRB rules when it happened, because they didn't tell anybody, but sort of to learn more about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and sort of gender and religion and the role it sort of played in the Montgomery bus boycott. So that's what I will be doing.
Thank you, Joyce. I'll actually be going to UC Berkeley, the Bancroft Library, and looking at Joseph LeCount's paper. Joseph LeCount was a geologist, but he was born in Liberty County, and he actually taught at UC Berkeley for a number of years. His papers were dated in the 1950s. And I'll be looking at his records because his father was a large-scale planter/slave owner in Liberty County, and during the Civil War, he actually went back, recorded narratives of freedmen and freedwomen, and he took a lot of photos, and I'd like to use that information to analyze the transition of freed women in Liberty County in the late 19th century.
Next, I'd like to invite John Olson to come on up and present the Jumpstart grant to Mr. Berkman.
So we have a new, relatively new prize to give, or award grant, and that is called our Jumpstart grant. And we created it last year in an effort to help spur or jumpstart a graduate student on their way to their dissertation. So one becomes eligible to apply for the grant when one has finished or completed defending the dissertation prospectus. And then the idea is then use that time right after that summer to go out into the archives and get a jump start on research. And this year, our recipient is Christopher Benning. Congratulations.
Well, with this generous grant, thank you very much. I will be completing the first 2 chapters of my dissertation on Charles Wilkham, who's a pioneering museum curator from Laconia, New Hampshire. So I'll be visiting Laconia, New Hampshire, and the Weirs to look at his formative years, and then also San Francisco and Oakland, California, where he became the founding curator of what's today the DeYoung Museum and the Oakland Museum of California. So, thank you very much.
Next up is the hands-on grant, and so Dan, again, Brian Comfort, and Cheryl Harden, if you guys would come on up. This is another new funding stream, and so it's really been a delight to see these new grant initiatives emerging in the department, and that's thanks to Joy Bowman, who is always looking for ways to create support for our graduate students. And I also want to give a shout out to Kayla Pittman and Rebecca Schmidt, because the idea for this grant came when Kayla and Rebecca wanted to do a summer field school, and we had no funding stream dedicated to those kinds of experiences. We could send people to conferences, we could send it to the archive, but we didn't have a funding stream that supported that kind of experience. And when they asked about it, I thought, you know what, we don't, but we should. And so Joy thought, yes, indeed, we should, and we created this new thing called the Hands-On Grant. And I'm delighted to introduce the first 3 recipients of that. And so you guys can come up and tell what you're going to do with this new kind of experience. It's designed to allow people to learn things that would support their work that are outside the normal course of study. So come on up.
Yeah. Thanks. I want to thank you, Marla, because you actually suggested last spring that I apply for this when we were working on the Truth and Reconciliation History and Justice Conference together. And so I'm using this funding to pay the tuition for the Social Justice Mediation Institute training that's led by Professor Leah Wing, a legal studies professor here on campus. And that's next week, actually, and I wouldn't have been able to afford it without this grant. But I'm hoping that it's going to, give me some insights into the research that I'm doing on this conflict between leftist guerrillas and the FBI in the 70s and 80s. So that's
very good. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I really appreciate this grant. I'm going to go actually in 3 days down to Georgia Southern University, who had the wisdom to have a summer institute in May. Exactly, which I'm very happy about. But it's called the Visual History Summer Institute, and its emphasis is on documentary film and kind of twofold. And then how, as a documentary filmmaker, can you use more rigorous set of historical standards for analysis and inquiry, but then also as a historian, how can you use documentary film to spread your message a little bit more wide? So, thank you.
I didn't know I was speaking either. But I really want to thank you all for the grant, and I know I would need to go. I'll be going to the American Antiquarian Society has a seminar this summer in July, and on books in the larger world of objects. So I study material culture, and I also study book history, and so I'm just kind of really excited that somebody is finally marrying the two topics. So books as material culture, and kind of like how they are in conversation with each other. And since I'm studying Skinner as a material, looking at his collection of books and objects, I'm kind of like looking forward to finding out what connection I can make in a language that I haven't thought of. So thank you.
Next we have the Ermonian Graduate Award for Excellence in Graduate Training, and John Higginson is going to present this to this year's awardee, Marwa Amir. I always get that wrong. I want to say a few words while John's making his way up. This is a fund that was created by Krikor Ermonian in honor of his parents. He was actually an engineering student here at UMass, but created a scholarship in engineering and a scholarship in history, I guess just a lover of history. And so today his generosity allows us to fund more than 20 undergraduate fellowships, as well as this award. So John, thanks for doing the honors here. Come on up. Marwa, come on up.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm very honored to present this award, and I hope that it goes some way toward ensuring that Marwa completes her most important and wonderful research. I liken Marwa's work to that of Henry Kissinger. I'm serious. In the midst of the Shanghai Convention of 1970, Zhou Enlai asked Henry Kissinger, well, what about Robert Williams? And Henry Kissinger asked him, well, who is Robert Williams? And he said, Zhou Enlai told him, well, I suggest you find out before we continue these conversations. And Marwa's work on Mabel Williams, and who would know something about their husband more than his wife, I think will be an important contribution, first to the circumstances of international politics during the closing phases of the Cold War, and it will also help us to understand better. Didn't want to split that infinitive. It helped us to understand better the international dimension of the Afro-American struggle for human rights. Thank you.
Just stay up here a bit longer, because I want to stay here too. The award, it's great to hear that much about Marwa's research, and it's nice that...
I know it's a teaching award, but I hope she'll double dip.
Yeah, no, that's great, that's great. And the beauty is that somebody who's doing that important work can still be one of the best TAs in the department. And I don't think that this is the first year you've been nominated. And I think that this year's nomination was made by Jennifer Frank for your work in History 151? 150? Oh, 373, that's right, yeah. Right, but anyone who has worked with Marwa as a TA will say, I know, that she's an extraordinarily dedicated teacher of our students. So congratulations. And next we have the Caldwell Writing Prize, and the first of these will be presented by Heidi Scott, there she is, to Dan McDonald. And just, to fill in some department history, Theodore Caldwell had joined the history department in 1935 and retired around 1970 and created this award to honor excellence in writing in the department. And Jerry McFarland, where's Jerry? Is he here still? Was telling me before the ceremony tonight that Theodore Caldwell worked in the history department when the history department was 2 people whose offices were in the old chapel. So this has taken us all the way back. And thanks, Heidi, for presenting the first of 2.
Well, it's a pleasure and a delight to present this award to Dan McDonald for his thesis entitled The City of Minas, the Founding of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, and Modernity of the First Republic. Now, I was on Dan's Master's Committee, so I can guarantee that it's a wonderful piece of work, very, very enjoyable to read, and more importantly, or just as importantly perhaps, a very significant contribution to the history of a city that I think is fair to say is still very much under-researched compared to perhaps Brasilia in particular, and more broadly, really important contribution to urban history more generally in Latin America, and to modernity, to the idea of modernity and its role in the shaping of modern Latin America. So really great piece of work. And I believe that Dan last year was receiving an award for the, got what it's called now, the Latin American Travel Grant. So I can say that money has been very, very well spent an excellent thesis. Now, Dan will be leaving us shortly in order to begin his doctoral research at Brown, so I think I can speak for everybody in the department to say that we wish him all the best for his new academic ventures. Dan.
So, just want to thank Professor Scott and Professor Wolf and Environmental Science for overseeing that thesis. And a special thanks to Professor Wolf for overseeing lots of my writing over the past 3 to 4 years, which I would like to say has gotten somewhat better since history of Brazil. But again, thanks to the department for all the support over the years. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody around in New England. Thank you.
Next up, we have Barry Levy, who's going to present the second prize to Sam Dodge, who can't be here tonight. Sam graduated last year, but you're eligible for this prize the calendar year before the prize. And we awarded 2 prizes this year to both Dan and Sam. And since Sam can't be here, I know this is cheesy, but I have the floor, so I'm going to do it. If you could turn the camera to the room, can we all say, "Hi, Sam"? Hi, Sam. Very good. And Barry, can you make a few remarks?
Yes. This master's thesis was supervised by Dr. Cox, but I was very happy to be on the board with him. And it started in a seminar, and I have to have a few other people learn in that seminar about 3 years ago. And it is about a very good, solid piece of work on the Mormon Word of Wisdom, which is about the decision by Mormons to prohibit alcohol, tobacco, and caffeine. Continues to define them. I hope nobody was smoking in the picture. And this is a very solid piece of work. Sam spent a lot of time in Salt Lake City at the archives and reading the basic Mormon texts. And he puts the sort of invention of these prohibitions in historical and geographic context, and does a very fine job rhetorically, sort of balancing or avoiding either sanctimoniousness or belittling the Mormon tradition. Not an easily balancing act, which he does extremely well. He's right now en route from Salt Lake to Lehigh University, where he's gotten a 4-year fellowship to continue to study religion and society. And he is probably, I don't want to totally commit him, going to broaden his study to other groups in the 19th century who came up with defining themselves through both allowing and disallowing dietary and other kinds of prohibitions. And look forward to his work. This is certainly a very promising beginning to perhaps a very major career.
Thanks, Barry. And Sam, we're happy to accept it on your behalf, and we'll put it in the mail. You'll see it online. And so, that brings us to the Graduate Certificate in Public History, which John Olson is going to present to this year's graduating students, John Dixon, Andy Graham, Jacob Orcutt, and Chico. Yeah.
All right. So, in order to qualify for the Certificate in Public History, they have all taken 3 linked courses, Intro to Public History, and then 2 linked courses in their field of interest, or subfield of interest. And so that could be in historic preservation, in museum interpretation, in digital history, in writing for the public. Right, we have several, no, I'm missing a couple of those. I think there's 6 or 7 in all. And then the big part of it is 300 hours of internship that they do outside of classes. We can only teach them the theory. It's up to them to find a good match in an internship in order to qualify for the 300 hours. And so each of them, maybe when you come up and you can tell us what you did your internship in, Okay. So let's see. First, I have John Dixon. Yeah. Congratulations.
My internship, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody here. My internship last summer was at the Herman Melville House in Arrowhead in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. I was chasing the white whale, my own white whale, over the course of the summer. It was a writing internship. I did a number of writing projects, including an exhibit on Pittsfield in the Civil War, 1863, 150th anniversary. Great.
And next we have Shukbo Tamo. Is that favorite last name? Yes.
So my internship at just the UMass Special Collection University. Special Collection University Archives. I processed the papers for Judy Chamberlain, which she herself was a psychiatric survivor, which means that she received abusive treatment while she was in a mental hospital. But she later became a huge successful career in cross-disability rights movement, and it was a great opportunity to frame my work in a bigger disability rights movement and civil rights movement. So I really appreciate the experience at the archives.
And then we have Jacob Orku. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I did my internship at the Institute for American Indian Studies in Washington, Connecticut. I was working with an archaeological collection of over 50,000 indigenous artifacts that had never been looked at before. So I organized and analyzed the collection. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And that brings us nearly to the end. And what we've done in the past is just ask our graduating students to just come up and accept a round of applause for finishing all of this hard work. We all know how hard you all work to get to this point. We're very happy to be celebrating this moment with you. So can we just bring up Tom Army, Andrew Dausch, I know Laura Miller's not here, Rick Topier, and John Dixon back up, Jonathan Dusenberry, Veronica Golden, Dan again, McDonald, Jacob, Shuko, and Erica Tomios is not here, but come on up. We'll clap, and that will mean sunny skies tomorrow, no rain. So well done. And I think
some PhD students at least tell us what they did.
Oh yes, of course. Please do. We haven't heard from them yet. Yeah, Tom and Rick, tell us what you worked on. Thank you, John.
No, you have. My dissertation was on Civil War engineering, and I have some exciting news to share. Just about 10 minutes before I came here tonight, I heard from the senior editor at Johns Hopkins University Press, and my readers have recommended that they go ahead and publish my dissertation. So that's what I'm going to be doing this summer, working on that and looking for a job. An old refrain. Wow, it's hard to follow. Well, so my research actually focused on Western Mongolians, and particularly in the 17th century, and it was a study about how particularly steppe states developed states. All right, what was the sort of the statecraft involved in sort of launching a new political entity, and it's very much, of course, involved in Buddhist political ideology, which was tremendously important in Central Asia. And I want to say how much I really appreciate the department for taking on such an outlier. It's not the normal topic in this department, but with a lot of help from friends and Audrey, who was tremendously helpful and helped me understand what it means to be a historian, because I didn't have a master's in this field. I'd studied in other areas before, and then a few other folks who understood what I was talking about, and they got me through. And I'm immensely grateful for that. It's such a huge relief to have accomplished something that took me a full 9 years, I might add, but was just tremendously meaningful to me. Thank you.
That's such a good idea, John. I should go ahead and take your seat. I'll mention that earlier today, Laura Miller defended her dissertation, so we have a new Dr. Miller in the department. And I don't see a member of her committee here, or I would call them up. But she wrote a really wonderful dissertation on ethnic resorts in the Catskills, Italian, Puerto Rican, and African American resorts. She's an oral historian and used that skill in completing the dissertation. And Jennifer, do you want to tell us about Andrew's dissertation? I see Andrew. Is he here? You want to tell us what he did?
Yes. Andrew Dausch did a dissertation looking at the intersection of French and Brazilian history, and specifically aspects of intellectual history of how Brazil exported ideas about race, political development, social relations, and how French intellectuals interacted and adapted those, and the relation back and forth between the two.
Yeah, good. And then, yes, in action. And Maria Abenasser lives in Lebanon this part of the year and comes back to New England in the summertime. And is there a member of her committee here? She finished earlier in this year. Well, we'll just have to wait for that book, and then we'll find out all about it. So to close the program, I'll turn you back to our chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is great. It's sort of like watching the little falcons, you know, come out of their shells or something on top of the library. So I want to Falcon Cam, if you don't guys know, you know, they're about to hatch, right? So hatch. Oh, they will hatch. Yeah. So I'm a day late. So I want to do two things, and I'm going to do this little cheesy thing again, and this is for Larry Owens. You know that Larry Owens, our history of science and technology, one of several now, thanks to Larry Owens, is retiring. He did not want a dinner. He did not want, as John Higginson suggested, a flash. What was it? What do they call it? A flash mob party down there. You know, he refused that. He refused. I won't say refused. He just didn't want to do it. He didn't want a special thing. We've often had a retirement party at the, what do you call it, faculty club, UMass club, where we would always buy a chair, a UMass chair for retiring people. Like, I don't know, it's not a rocking chair, it's just like a chair. And so I can't say that I blame him for not wanting the chair. But he just said, you know, no frills, no whatever. So I'm wondering if, Chuck, we can just turn this camera around and say, Larry, we're going to miss you. I don't know, what do we say? Larry. And so we have a token of appreciation for you, Larry, that we are going to get to you that involves buying gadgets. And also Larry and Janet are going on a, I think, 2 or 3 month tour de France, you know, tour of Europe. And so hopefully the contributions can help towards a very special dinner, maybe a trip to the spa, and I don't know, wine tasting or something like that. So, Larry, we're going to miss you. And then, you know, I feel like I don't even have to say this, but I'd like Mary to come up. You know, Marlon has been GPD for 4 years, and so she has seen a couple of classes and groups of graduate students. I'm going to let Mary say something, and then I'll say something.
I do.
Okay, all right.
And it's funny, because when Marla started, she said she couldn't say too much because it would make her cry. And she has had a couple of opportunities to say very nice things about me every year at these award ceremonies. She'll acknowledge me and say just wonderful things about me. And I've been planning this actually for probably at least a year. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to get the grad students in on it too. So I got a card and I sent out an email. It was more difficult. It wasn't difficult, but I had to not send it to his friends, because who would have known? So I sent it I cut and pasted and sent it to everybody, and I've had such great response with the grad students signing the card and contributing. And we got you these lovely flowers with a very nice face, and then another gift. Working with Marla has been so wonderful. She is just such a great boss. She is such a great advocate for all of the grad students. She is always available. I look forward to her coming in. We talk, and it's just wonderful. There have been days when I'm like, oh, I'm just in such a horrible mood. And then Marla comes in, and I forget about my bad mood, and I don't know what I'm going to do without you. Barbara, I really look forward to it, but Barbara, prepare Steve that you are going to be getting phone calls. I'll have to apologize to him in advance. I've just loved working with you. I'm going to miss working with you so much, and I'm glad you're still the public history director, so you can still come and give me things to do. And so these are the flowers that I would not let be used. And then this is another little gift, and your card is in there too. So it's just, and then on behalf of the department and me personally, I am going to miss, our moments of sharing all kinds of things. I'm looking forward to working with Barbara as well. But 4 years, we've connected in a really beautiful way. And so thank you for everything. The department owes an incredible thank you to Marla, because it has been a selfless dedication to each and every one of our students and to the program more generally. So thank you very much.
It's my great pleasure and privilege. I'm going to miss the devil out of that job, and I'm going to miss working with Mary, and I'm coming to give you lots of things to do. We'll make stuff up to work on. It's been my privilege, and I hope to stay just as connected to the graduate program when I come back and I'm not in that office. So please be a patch my door on the 7th floor now. So really love you guys all. So Mary, I'll never hug. Thank you.
So one last thing, can we just say thank you to our students who have put this spread together, and protected the alcohol from Faculty Senate. Faculty Senate was meeting in 227, and we thought they were all going to come out and drink everything. So thank you for looking out for us. And just enjoy. We have a few more minutes, and drink, eat, be merry. And welcome to Barbara, who's going to be coming in.